and welcome to Audi TV, the podcast. Stylish jeans are a cult item. No one would maintain they're just a piece of cotton cloth. In the same way, leather upholstery in an Audi is not simply leather. If you order leather seats or a leather steering wheel for your Audi, you're ordering expertise. Audi TV took a close look at the elaborate process from the rawhide to the finished Audi seat.
It could be the setting for a dark science fiction film, or for an historical drama about the Industrial Revolution. But it is in fact the starting point for this: the finest leather upholstery that Audi uses for its aesthetic interiors. Leather appointments are featured in both the large-scale productions and the individualizing programs at Audi Exclusive. But no matter whether it is in a serially produced automobile or in an individually styled one, the leather must meet the absolute highest standards of quality. In the Austrian leather factory Boxmark, one of Audi's leather-producing partners, one can observe an exemplary display of competence in the art of leather manufacturing. Leather is one of the first materials to be produced by mankind, making tanning one of the oldest cultural achievements. And to this day, the long stretch from animal hide to exclusive leather begins in the tannery. Because animal hide is a far cry from leather, first the raw material has to be stabilized using tanning agents.
The rawhide itself is a natural product and therefore perishable. It decomposes. The tanning process causes the hide to become irreversibly stable. It is then decay and heat resistant. As a matter of practice, we abstain from the use of chrome as a tanning agent, even though tanning would be less expensive and more efficient.
Instead, Boxmark has decided to bank on the use of vegetable and synthetic tanning agents, which are environmentally friendly. After this first step, the raw material is still not leather. Afterwards, the hide must first be gently dried using a sort of oversized iron and a special oven, before it can even begin to be considered leather.
Now the only thing missing is the last finishing, meaning the final coloration, the last polish, and the last alteration to make the leather handleable, as the customer would want it to be. When we color the hide, the last hue is applied using spray nozzles. Similar to an automotive paint job, the leather is coated in an extremely thin layer of paint in order to achieve an even coloration. In the last 4 weeks, we have probably applied 250 to 350 different colors, depending on the customer's demands.
Before leaving the tannery, the leather must first pass numerous quality tests demanded by Boxmark.
We test abrasion resistance, tensile strength and tearing strength. This means that we check whether the leather will rip easily or not. Then, of course, we have tests concerning the dyes. That's to say, we have color and polish standards. So we test whether or not the color matches the specifications. We also have a climate test. We perform these tests in our climatic exposure cabinets, where the leather can be stressed at temperatures from -40 degrees centigrade to over 140 degrees. The humidity can be adjusted between 0 and 100%, which means that we can simulate climates from Siberian cold to tropical and check to see what happens to the leather in frequent climatic change.
So now it is robust but still supple. It is color fast without rubbing off, but it is not yet upholstery for seats, steering wheels or door interiors. In Boxmark sewing facilities, the sheets of leather, on the average 6 square meters in size, are stamped daily from originally approximately 170,000 single pieces into up to 1,400 different variants, in a logistically highly complicated process.
Before being cut with the water cutter, the leather skins are spread out on a table. Then the skins are recorded with a camera, producing a digital image. A colleague has a magnifying glass in her hand and labels every single natural marking, such as scarring and warts.
Since every car part, armrest, driver's seat or passenger seat, requires its own leather or stamped pieces, each individual piece must be arranged in the computer so that an optimal yield of each skin is guaranteed.
The water cutter produces a pressure of 2,500 bar. The water jet has a diameter of no more than 0.08 millimeters. The advantage of the water jet is particularly obvious in large-scale production. The water cutter allows for quick changes in cut. That's to say, when we want to change one of the models, different cross-section, different flow, it can be done with mechanical stamping. The water cutter, however, is controlled via CAD, and the cross-section can be produced within half an hour. This means that an alteration that comes in on a Friday afternoon can already be delivered on Monday. The advantage in using classical stamps with punching knives is that quicker reactions are possible when producing smaller series, and they can be delivered after only half a day.
After cutting, the feat of logistics moves into the next round. The orders for every single Audi model from the A3 to the R8 have to be neatly separated and prepared for further processing.
A front seat, on the left, is composed of 50 different stamped pieces, and additionally 100 different individual pieces, for example. So we need 150 pieces for the final production of a front left unit.
And then there is the passenger seat, the rear seats, armrests, steering wheels, and. And for each automobile model there is smooth leather, embossed leather, perforated leather, a virtually inexhaustible number of individual pieces that have to be considered with every order.
During one shift, approximately 12,500 components are brought into the sewing facility.
And the components that are ready to be processed end up here, where they are sewed together by hundreds of workers.
Here at Boxmark, 500 seamstresses are employed and are divided into 2 different shifts. We produce 8 models divided then into 85 variants. That makes a total of 1,400 different components, multiplied by the number of customer orders. We use 414 kilometers of thread in our sewing daily. That makes about 900 sets, which means in turn that about 900 vehicles can be delivered daily.
Nonetheless, intricate logistics guarantee that mass production remains mass production in the sewing facilities as well.
One of our most difficult seams is for the side impact airbag. The seam must burst under a certain amount of pressure to allow the airbag to open. For this seam, documentation is required. This means that we guarantee for a period of 15 years that the seam will break because, in the end, human lives depend on it.
Just as no one would say it's just cotton when speaking of a jeans, leather is not just simple leather at Audi. Our advancement through technology doesn't end with Quattro or TDI, but is moreover an elementary conviction that applies to every single part of an Audi.
Thanks for joining us here at Audi TV, the podcast.